So you don't need to be confident, you need to be comfortable. Let me explain. I sit in a boardroom with a bunch of surgeons, $500,000 executives, and other industry high-educated chiefs. And yet, here I am, a young, uneducated gamer. So how am I able to stand my own ground in this boardroom full of other societal mountains? Well, again, it's not at all about confidence. It's all about my comfort level and a little game that I play with each of the highly educated executives, chiefs, and surgeons sitting in this very same boardroom with me. You see, before these boardroom meetings really kind of started to roll out and be a thing for me, I was pretty confident with myself. I was pretty confident in my position in life. I was a manager with my current company, making 6 figures, and I really was doing really well for myself. I was making the big boy money and was doing things that I only ever thought that I might ever dream of doing. I never really thought that I would honestly be in this position. And so I had what I felt like a pretty strong sense of self-confidence, and that was all completely broken down and torn down for me when I first stepped into these boardroom meetings with these really just absolute, like I said, highly educated surgeons, doctors, chiefs, executives, you name it. They're in this room and I'm meeting directly with them. Little old me, I don't have any college degree or anything, and what do I have to add to this meeting? And those initial boardroom meetings were really tough for me, and they really made me look inside myself and second guess my own qualifications, and really the imposter syndrome really sunk in. And I took it in the wrong way, in that I was diving super deep into doing my work after hours. I was studying up for my work when I wasn't at work, all so that when these boardroom meetings came along, I could hopefully blow these people away and be like, look at me, all of my work's done, and look at all the stuff that I know. But it was all just false information, and beneath that balloon of fake information that I had built for myself, if you just took a pin and poked it, pop, you would realize there was nothing there, and I was just full of faux information. And this really started to drag on me, because even though maybe the people in the room were convinced by the facade that I had put on, I was not convinced by the facade that I had put on. And nobody sees through your crap better than you do. And so these meetings would go on, and I would spout my internet facts that I memorized as if I really knew what I was talking about. And maybe these people believed it, maybe they saw through my voodoo, I don't really know. But again, the important part was that I knew the difference, and it really started to wane on me, because I was like, if you were ever put in a situation where you were tested for your knowledge set, you would instantly fail because you don't have a knowledge set. And that just compounded the horrible feelings of inadequacy and imposter syndrome that I already had going into these meetings. And so, but that's really not the sparking incident that made me realize the importance of confidence versus comfort, because again, before these meetings, I was pretty confident in myself. I was confident that I had done all these things and I'd done all these great things and I'd earned the right to be in these boardroom meetings. But the first second that I stepped foot in the meetings, it all just crumbled out from under me. So, but the catalyst, the part of this story that really made me realize the error and the fault in my ways was a particular normal meeting. It wasn't a big board meeting. All of the surgeons and the people weren't there. They were all just my peers, really. My peers are people who even directly reported to me. And I was in this meeting. It was a routine little training meeting, and theoretically I could knock it down a few notches, calm down a little bit, kick my feet up, enjoy the meeting or whatever, and I didn't need to be this whole big inflated balloon version of myself. But instead, my mind was you've put all this work into trying to impress these really big people and these really important people, and what if you appeared just as important and just as big in this meeting, so that your peers can now bend over backwards to try and impress you? Wouldn't that feel nice? Yeah, I bet it would. So yeah, I doubled down on those losers, and I absolutely just threw my overbladed fake facts and weight all over that meeting, and I'm sure everybody hated me. There was no losers in that room except for me. It got to the point where the instructor had to force somebody to work with me because I was was being so obnoxious that like everybody voluntarily picked anyone else in that room to be the partners with, except for myself. So, but that wasn't even like the worst of it. That's not the tip of the iceberg. That's not what's below the ocean or whatever sunk Titanic. What sunk Titanic in this situation was just like one guy who knew just a little bit more about whatever the thing was that I was pretending to know everything about than I did. And he just very politely kind of put me back in my place. And I was like throwing my weight around and I was like, hey, I know this stuff. And he was like, actually, it's like that. And I was like, well, dang, you're right, I'm wrong. And now I look even more like a big old dummy than I already did. So thanks for that, bud. And then kind of after that point, I really shelled up into myself and didn't really open up in that meeting past that point. And most people would probably think that I was just embarrassed or something to that nature. But really, I was in my own head, and that's all it was. I was thinking in my own head the whole time about how inadequate I was, about how the imposter had won over, and how I'm gonna get voted out of this ship because they finally realize I'm an absolute imposter. Now, of course, in this real world situation, being voted out of the ship is being fired, which is obviously not something that most people want, and so I was panicking. And that panic in reverse just like completely shut me down, because I'd been overworking up to that point to impress all these people. I'd been stressed out just in the nature of the big boy job that I had just gotten, and then I had just been absolutely embarrassed in this meeting where I made a fool of myself. And so I shut down, didn't have any motivation to do anything. And like, I'm a pretty heavily motivated person, a very productive individual. And so that should have been the first red flag, but I didn't really think anything of it. Like, I was just like, whatever, I guess I'm just not motivated to do stuff right now. But I didn't think it was anything beyond that. And this state of lack of motivation, and inability to do anything eventually did turn into like a 3-day long stretch of me doing nothing except for going home, eating junk food, watching too much TV, playing too many video games, getting nothing done outside of work, and getting nothing done personally for myself. Because my creative work for me is personally accomplishing. Like, even if no one in the whole wide world watches any of these videos, even if they don't watch the animation that I have, even if they don't read the books that I love to write, like, just having that form of expression means the world to me. And I was doing none of that stuff. And it was a fateful match on Xbox. I was just hanging out with one of my old bros, and like, the moral of this story is like, make sure to surround yourself with good friends, good bros, because they are irreplaceable. So I was playing a match of just a routine game. I don't even remember what game it was, but whatever game we were playing. And I was describing to my friend how I was like, I have been unmotivated to do anything lately. Like, it's been 3 days and I haven't touched any of my creative projects. I haven't really thought about doing anything outside of work. I just come home and I just shut down, and that's where I've been. And I unpacked that as though it was just some routine thing that I was going through. And my friend like immediately stopped the game at that very point in time, and he said, nope, pump the brakes. He's like, I know you, bud, and I've known you for a very long time. And if you are not out there absolutely crushing it, being productive and getting stuff done, then there is something wrong. And you should really look more seriously at this and figure out what's going on. And I'd be more than happy to help you however I can. And that's when that light bulb went off in my head. And I was like, you know what? He's right. And I hadn't taken it seriously, and thanks goodness I had someone to point it out to me so that I could take it seriously. And I was like, I have not been taking this very seriously. I do agree, like, I think this is bigger than how I've been building it up to be, and thanks for bringing it to my attention. And so from there, it was a hard-fought process of fighting against the mind tunnel that I have absolutely burrowed myself into and trying to be myself again. And ultimately, like, this depression lasted like a little over 2 weeks. I think it was like 17 days if I'm really counting the days out, before I finally started doing something for myself. And kind of what helped me come to that realization is I had another one of those big boardroom boardroom meetings right in the middle of this thick of depression and me not feeling like doing anything. I have another one of these hugely intimidating board meetings with all the surgeons and the directors and the executives and the chiefs, and I was like, oh golly, like I gotta do all this all while I just feel like no motivation whatsoever. And like something just clicked in my mind at that very moment, and that was when I developed the Most Interesting Man game, MIM for all my acronymers out there. But what is that? So I myself, prior to all this, back when I felt confident about myself, was convinced that I was the most interesting man in almost every room that I had been in. And I used that leverage to kind of build my comfort in the room so that I can once again be confident in this space. And so like essentially for me, I wrote a novel, a full-length novel, 72,324 words in just 9 days. And then on top of that, I was working 2 jobs at the time, 65 hours, Monday through Friday, and spending my weekends building my own house. I was incredibly busy at that time, incredibly productive at that time, and being incredibly interesting. And I know that despite how awesome, big, and amazing these people are in this room, none of them are as interesting as me, and none of them have done the interesting things that I have done. And I use that confidence to project upon them the same as how they're going to project upon me their superior intellect or their superior salaries or their superior skills or whatever it is. I'm going to project onto them my superior interestingness. And it sounds silly, but it's something that I can use to be comfortable in that room. Because now I'm going to sit down and I'm going to look at all of them and I'm going to find them all lacking and I'll be like, you're boring, you're boring, you're boring, you're lame. And boom, like all of a sudden I'm comfortable again because I'm having this game in my head and I'm understanding that, hey, you know what? I may not be the most intellectual guy here. I may not be the most skilled guy here, and I'm definitely not the most highly paid guy here. But what I am is I am the most interesting guy here. And that is what I bring to this boardroom. That is what I bring to this space. And that breeds comfort. And once I became comfortable with myself, with who I am and my place in this meeting, I then was confident, because it's not blatant confidence that is confidence. Like if you're just walking into a room acting like you're confident, then that's all you're doing. You're just acting, and acting is just that. It is acting. It isn't true confidence. If you want to walk into a room and truly be confident, you have to walk in that room and be comfortable. And the comfort level that you have and have established will bring that confidence along with it. Think back to any situation that you've been in, and when the person is making you uncomfortable and their overconfidence is just drowning you out and you're just suffocating in how awesome and overconfident they are, chances are it's not the person in the room who's the loudest and the most boisterous and just blowing their opinions all over your face. It's the guy who's kind of laid back. He's sitting in his chair and he says important things, and every time he says something, he contributes to the mission. He contributes to the boardroom meeting. He contributes to the situation. And that is the person, that is the guy in that room who is the most intimidating to you, because they are comfortable, and because that comfort is the truest form of confidence. And if you can match that, then you're on the same level playing field. It doesn't matter skill set, doesn't matter salary, doesn't matter intellect. You're on the same level skill set because you are both in that room, because you are both being confident. So again, it is all about comfort. Play that game in your mind, measure those people up, find them lacking in whatever it is that you find them lacking in. For me, it's the interest level. I find myself to be the most interesting person in that room. For you, it could be something entirely different. But I know you have something. You've just got to find it, grab it, and measure them up, and then you win, because now you are comfortable and you are confident. So I thank you all for making it this far in the video. I appreciate you stopping by. As I mentioned before, I have my own animation here on YouTube. I've got my own novels, and of course I've got more videos in this productivity series as well. If you check any of those out, that would be absolutely delicious, and I appreciate you again. See you on the next one.